take the first question?
I will. It's my pleasure. We're asking, would you have voted for the TARP and the stimulus packages had you had the opportunity?
No.
Well, nor would I. Okay.
Let me tell you what's happened with those, actually. You know, if you recall, the TARP package, there was all this hysteria that if we didn't pass it immediately, then our financial system would crumble. And they basically passed it, and then nothing really happened. The intent was that there were securities sitting on banks' balance sheets that they weren't trading anymore, and they wanted to create liquidity so that these things started moving around. What banks actually did with that money was they sat on it, and they used it to acquire their weaker competitors. So they basically got a low-interest loan from the taxpayer to do mergers and acquisition activity. Now, how that has evolved is the FDIC has gone around and said they've identified 1,000 banks that are in trouble. They'll go to a particular bank and they'll say, you know, we're going to come in and take you over, but if you can sell yourself to these guys over here, we won't do that. So they've quietly arranged a number of acquisitions behind the scenes to try to get these problems accumulated in the private sector so the FDIC doesn't have to take the loans on their balance sheet. Now what happens with that is once the bank is acquired, the people get laid off. So in effect, the TARP funds have cost jobs over the last year. And they have not gone to creating liquidity in the market. Our banks right now are sitting on about $1 trillion in excess liquidity above and beyond their reserve requirements, and they're not lending. They're going to small businesses and they're cutting their credit lines, even when small businesses have had perfect pay record and they're viable. But now they can't function. They have revolvers, they have credit cards, they have loans. The banks are saying, we're restricting all credit. And a lot of that is due to the administration. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Do you believe energy independence is compatible with free trade?
Of course. I actually think that not only can we work towards energy independence and achieve it, I think we can turn energy into one of our exports. We have some of the most vast energy resources of any country on the planet, including oil, natural gas, and coal. And for us to be prohibiting drilling, particularly with the technological advances that we've seen, I think is a shame. Because we could stop sending money to countries that sponsor terrorism, create millions of jobs here, and export our energy. Think of what that would do in terms of taking down our national debt or bringing money into the country. We need to start pursuing nuclear energy aggressively. The fact that France is getting almost 80% of their energy from nuclear and we're not is embarrassing. I think they're perfectly compatible with free trade.
What immediate actions need to be taken to turn the economy around and stabilize the dollar?
A couple things. We need to stop borrowing and stop spending. You know, one of the things that's happening on the global stage is countries are starting to realize that we can't make up the difference. So our dollars continue to fall. With the Fed continuing to print money capriciously, you know, inflation is coming. What we need now to stabilize our economy is job growth. And you've got all these taxes that the administration is pushing through, that Congress is trying to push for. They're going to do nothing but decimate our economy even further. And I think the way to facilitate job growth is through lending programs. We have an SBA program that works if it's incentivized to do so. And it's not going to be a situation where you have the government actually putting the money out, but a loan guarantee program. Take the banks that receive stimulus funds or TARP funds. Make it a requirement that they go out and proactively lend to businesses. I've heard people talk about tax credits to incentivize job creation. I'm a small business owner, and I'll give you $1 million if you can tell me how to spend a tax credit to hire somebody. I mean, I need money today to hire someone and buy equipment and pay for advertising and travel to my clients. I don't need a tax credit that I'm going to get back in 2011. So we need to reverse our thinking. Government is not the solution. It never is a solution. We need to get back in the private sector. 70% of jobs are created by small business owners like myself. As an aside, I sit on the board of directors for the New York Entrepreneurs Organization, and we are a global organization of entrepreneurs made up of people that have built their businesses from scratch or acquired them over $1 million in revenue. And we have about 7,300 members in 40 countries. We represent over $100 billion in annual revenue. And these people are serious. We create wealth. We create jobs. We know how to get it done. The government is just getting in the way.
Do you believe it is politically possible to undo the entitlements bankrupting this country? And if so, what course would you recommend to undo this legislation?
It's interesting you qualify that as politically possible. I think anything's possible if you have a will to do it. And I think one of the challenges we're facing now is there's a misguided perception that entitlements are now rights. And they're not rights. They're privileges, they're nice to haves, they meet a certain need. And we should show mercy to people in our society that need it. However, the entitlement system we have is completely unsustainable, and everybody knows it. But they consider it a political third rail. I'm running on term limits. I don't know if that's going to come up later or not, but I think the problem we have is politicians get in office and all they want to do is perpetuate their existence. So first meeting they have after they get sworn in is, okay, how are we going to get reelected? I think that's ridiculous. So you have professional politicians in there for years that are disassociated from their constituents. They don't have to abide by the same laws and regulations that we do. They don't have to take Social Security. They're not going to be part of any health care plan. So why should we be subject to this? In terms of dismantling the entitlements, there's a few things that need to happen. It has to be gradual. And I think we need to start indexing them for our current situation. Take Social Security, for instance. When that was first envisioned, it was to kick in at 65, when the average life expectancy was 60. And people, you were going to collect it maybe a year or two, and at that level, it was sustainable. Now, you take a non-sustainable birth rate because of promoting abortion, and you get people coming into this country and basically getting granted Social Security status or benefits who haven't paid into the system. Of course, it's going to be bankrupt. So I think we need to look at a lot of different alternatives in terms of kind of narrowing the scope of what gets paid and when, but ultimately wean ourselves off them. And it's possible, but it just takes will that current politicians don't have.